Welcome everyone to SEO Office Hours. My name is Michael Chidzey. I'm an SEO here at Good Signals. And part of what we do, along with special guests, are these office hour sessions where people can jump in and ask their questions around their website and web search. By the way, nobody here is in the hot seat and we might not know all the answers, but multiple heads thinking about a problem should help. We've had a bunch of questions submitted already, as you can see, which we'll go through. But if there's anybody here live on the call who would like to ask any questions, feel free to flag yourself in the chat functionality, which will be monitored. Also, there's usually a bunch of other amazing SEOs on the call. I think one of the best things about office hours isn't just the four of us sharing our thoughts or ideas, but everybody else that contributes. So please continue to do that because it's so amazing. Like every week, with me today is Juliana Turnbull, also known as SEO Joe Blogs. Good morning.
Happy Friday, everyone, and hello to everyone for joining us live. Hello, Rob, Steve, Deepak, Preeti. Hello, Simon, Natalia, Dan, Albert, Neil, Walid, Umama. Hello, Jordan, Samantha, Daniel, Boran, Naomi, Idris, Favor, and Ikra. We have a very international SEO office hours today. We've got people dialing from India, Pakistan, Germany, Nigeria, UK, and Spain. If there is anybody else dialing from another country, oh, sorry, we have Switzerland. Sorry, I did not mention that one. Please let me know. As Mike said, I'm Juliana Turnbull, also known as SEO Joe Blogs, and I am based here in Barcelona, Spain. And I also run a digital networking group called Search London. We have an online version and a Barcelona version. And actually, our next Barcelona version is February 28th, Friday. And we'll also have a dinner that week too, February 25th. So if you are in Barcelona and you haven't signed up, please let me know. We are really happy, Mike and I, to welcome back Isaline and Lee to SEO Office Hours. Today is our 58th SEO Office Hours show, third one of 2025. Welcome, Isaline and Lee.
Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Thank you for joining us again today. I'd like to introduce you all to Isaline. She is a multilingual SEO consultant. She specializes in localization for the Swiss-French market. Her passion project is SEO Nerd Switzerland. She organizes events in Switzerland for SEOs to meet, learn, and network. These are sometimes in person. Next week, actually, it is online. It is going to be on Tuesday, February 11th. It's all going to be about training for JavaScript for SEOs. It's at 5:45 CET, Central European Time, and it's with Samantha Torres. We will share that link in the chat. And Isaline is also an active member of Women in Tech SEO. If you'd like to get a hold of Isaline, please connect with her here on LinkedIn. Thank you for sharing that link, Isaline. Welcome to SEO Office Hours. Thanks for coming back on the show.
Yay, thank you for having me. I love what you two are doing and I'm happy to be here this morning. It's a lovely way to start or nearly starts the weekend. It's Friday, we don't know, half weekend yet.
Thank you. Yeah, we like SEO Office Hours. It's a great way to start the weekend. And thank you very much, Lee, for joining us again. He was on the show a couple of times last year. Lee oversees all delivery services at Vertical Leap. He helps to drive search marketing success for businesses of all different sizes. But outside of work, he's also published author of 3 industry books on search marketing, and he also contributes to many top industry publications like Search Engine Journal and The Drum. But prior to joining Vertical Leap, you also headed the marketing department of an international financial services company. So you sound very busy, Lee. You also founded a company that provided website design going back to early 2000s. So you've got loads of experience to bring to SEO Office Hours. Thank you, Lee. How do you find time to do everything?
Hey, no worries. It's a pleasure to be here. Always nice to chat SEO. SEO has been the kind of constant throughout my career. And yeah, I love to take any opportunity to talk with other SEO people or people involved with SEO or just interested in finding out more about how we can help. That's all.
Thank you for joining us. And thank you also for everyone watching the replay. If you are enjoying the video, which I'm sure you are, click a like on the video and subscribe to the Good Signals YouTube channel. We've got loads of questions today, so I'm going to pass back to you now, Mike.
Amazing. Okay, let's crack straight on. First question. Hey, I run a hair salon in Sydney. When I had the website built, I assumed the person I worked with knew SEO, but I've been told we're not getting very much traffic from SEO. Most of it goes to our retail pages, which is fine, but that's really just a secondary part of the business. Any ideas on how we can get more potential customers to the website? This person has actually shared a URL with us, but they've asked to keep them I can't say the word. So we will share their website in the chat now, but apologies to those on YouTube who don't know the site. They also have a second sort of follow-up question that we may want to cover, which is my website is built on Squarespace. I'm wondering if that's also holding us back in terms of SEO. Do I need to move to switch platform, or is there a way to make Squarespace work? So it's the same person, two questions. Who would like to kick off? Did anybody get a chance to look at the website, by the way, or is this the first time?
I looked at the
Sorry, go on.
website. Yeah.
Isaline, go for it.
So my first question is, in your questions, there are two different things. You want to have more traffic from search engine, but you also say any ideas on how we can get more potential customers. So my first question would be, do you want to get more potential customers, or do you want to get traffic from the websites? Because I think it would be a good moment to take a step back. I know I'm an SEO, but I'm also a company owner. And sometimes it's good to think return on investment. So I'm thinking for a business like a hair salon, what kind of content do people consume? Because I'm thinking it's very visual. It could be inspirational, like you won't see different types of haircuts. Is that Pinterest? Or it could be also like informational, like you want to use the tools and do things yourself. And I'm thinking, oh, it could be YouTube videos. So I understand you focus on the websites, but also if you look at marketing and SEO a bit more holistically, do you want to get more potential customers, and maybe organic traffic is not necessarily like on the website the first thing? Also, I don't know about Sydney. I know it's big, but still, I think it sounds like maybe Google Business Profile might be a good idea, because anything about reviews in this industry, when people have to physically go somewhere, I would think that would be really important. So I'm like, website is good. It looks good. I'm like, why not? It's on Squarespace. I'm like, why not? It's not necessarily a bad thing. But so I would not focus on the website. I would think local SEO and also inspirations, and think about other channels. What do the people really want to see, and what formats do they want to have?
Yeah, I'd agree with those points. I think just very quickly on the CMS choice, realistically, the role of SEO more often than not is to make the best out of whatever circumstance you find yourself in. And it's very rarely that changing a CMS will have a direct impact on making your SEO performance improve, because often it's not the CMS, it's about everything else, your content, your site speed, your expertise, your relevancy, and all of these other areas. So Squarespace is equally fine. There are obviously challenges sometimes with different items with CMS like Squarespace, whether it's the easiest thing to have full control over schema, for example, or image optimization or other areas. So it can help, but it certainly wouldn't make the big difference. I did very quickly look at the site this morning just before jumping on the call. So literally stuck the URL into a couple of different external tools. And interestingly, we can see that from August last year, there's been a bit of an increase in things like traffic from SEO and the volume of rankings. So it'd definitely be useful to explore what you were doing around that time frame and the impact that's had. Obviously, as a local business that's providing a service, the key thing really is making the most out of every ounce out of that location. So all of the conversations you have with your client base, all of the things they talk about, all of the specific services you provide, and trying to reflect as much of that on site as possible. You seem to have some really positive reviews. The Google Business Profile seems to be attracting lots of happy people. So the more you can surface that on your website, the better. The more you can create some really engaging location-based content as well. It's not about restricting yourself to a location, but if you know that your audience really engage with certain types of therapies and services and styles or products, show that in your website. You can own that space, you can dominate that space, and you can really use that as a kind of a platform to drive everything else forward. The site speed did seem really slow, so I would say fix that, because for hair salons and sort of local services, people are using their mobile phone, that they're likely on the move, that they're not going to have patience to wait for things to load or for the right content to load in the right formats and things. So I would get on top of that as a really quick practical tip. And then I would just leverage every single person you have in your salon to showcase them, shine a light on them, get the people involved that are working there, and really turn that into a location hub where everybody that's coming through or in that area knows of you and knows of the people and the things that you do really great things with.
Amazing. Joe, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, there were some great examples and great recommendations there. I would just like to emphasize what they've said, Isaline and Lean, regarding, yeah, Instagram, you're doing really well there. You've got loads of followers. The Google My Business profile is very good. I think you could expand that a bit more. You could add questions and answers there. You could add a few more photos around some of the latest hairstyles as well. But you've got loads of reviews, but it's always great to obviously get even more. In terms of the website itself, I do think if you wanted to be driving more traffic to the website, just update it. The last post looked like it was from December. So obviously it's summer now in Sydney, so would do a bit more tips around how to keep your hair healthy in the summer like you did anyway. I think you have a recent one about that, maybe the end of last year. And it would be good also to do a little bit more, build up a bit more information about some of the stylists if you want to have them as a point of contact to get to. But I do think that you've got a lot of great followers, lots of good content on Instagram, Google My Business, and yeah, probably just improve the site speed, as Lee said. We've already got a few comments in the chat, so I'll come to this as well. So Natalia is saying that 100% agree with you, Isaline. Also the Google business profile. I've been saying about hair salons will need a local SEO. It only mentions it in the footer, so I might need to mention that a bit more, because where the site is, obviously Sydney is big, so there's lots of different places within the city that you can go to, so really focus on that. John saying that he'd watch out for the trap of just creating SEO essays. A local business doesn't necessarily need to rank globally for random hair-related keywords. Simon's also saying, look for offline local advertising, local newspaper and community magazines. So we're in Australia, and that really works well for our in-store company that we actually had a brick and mortar store, and that worked very well. Pretty saying that, yep, check their Instagram. It looks really great. There's lots of businesses for home social media, and local SEO can work better than their website. So it's okay if you're not generating a lot. Leeds mentioned about reach out to other local beauty or lifestyle websites, blogs, or influencers. That's a good idea. Liaise with other influencers. Perhaps they might want to do a review, and then they'll obviously create some content and link back to your website. Looks like there's a lot of salons. Googling it, Simon says, in your area. Yeah, you may want to distinguish yourself from the others and just promote like how long you've been in business, or really emphasize the team as well there. Yeah, so loads of comments in the chat. Thanks very much, everyone.
Right. I like Simon's good grief, very English. All the advice everybody said is amazing. The only things that I would add would be, I found a couple of articles online that rank really well and get traffic for best hair salons in Sydney, where they list, it looks like yours is really luxurious, and maybe you could try and get featured on there as one of those. So rather than just focusing on SEO on your website, look at what's already appearing, and if it makes sense that you should be there, maybe get yourself in front of that journalist and have a chat with them. In terms of this isn't really SEO, but I had a quick look at your site on mobile. And one of the things with your Google My Business profile is, just at a glance, it looks a little bit like a cafe in terms of the sort of photos and stuff that you've got. So I personally would ideally have ones of people getting their hair done. I think I would prioritize that. I don't know if you can see, but yeah, it looks a bit like that. And then the other thing is, once you go on the website, I imagine there's a lot of people that use the mobile version of yours. I noticed that things like the feature image, the person's head is cut off. And obviously, if you're a hair salon, that's quite important. So that's more from a user experience perspective, like they land on your site and you want them to know they're in the right place. And so seeing somebody getting their hair done makes sense, rather than they might think it's more of a clothes shop or something like that if it's the rest of the body. There are a couple of things like, if you wanted the site to be perfect from an SEO perspective, there are a few things that you could do. But if I'm honest, I I don't think it's worth the time. I don't think that's going to make a big difference. And same feedback from me in terms of the idea of moving from Squarespace to another CMS. I think you could do that, but I think it would be a bit of a waste of time. It's a really nice site. I think the stuff everybody else said about making it a little bit faster and making it for your local audience is really important. Last thing is just on your Google My Business profile. I agree on that. And I think you can add some more information. So there isn't any sort of about section or anything like that at the moment, just explaining about you guys and your services, but you've got amazing reviews and people are obviously using it. So hopefully if you were to work on that, that would help. But to me, it looks like your website does the job in terms of once somebody lands there, they can book appointments and stuff like that, which is what I personally would worry about if I had a hair salon. So yeah, it doesn't get much traffic, but that might be just because you rank for not the right things. And like Simon said, there's a ton of competition there. So I would be tempted to look at other ways of driving that business if that's something that you really need, rather than switching CMS or anything like that. Anything else, Joe?
Can I add something,
Michael?
Michael?
Oh, of course you can, Rob. Hang on one sec. I'm just going to add you in. Here we go. Hey, Rob.
Morning, everyone. What I would say is we work with a lot of people with Google business profiles they're in the leisure space, which is tangential to this. They have a third-party booking engine plugged in for their appointments. So what they'll see, and this happens with activities and other things, they may not see an increase in traffic because that book online button doesn't go to their website. So they might see an increase in appointments without seeing an increase in traffic. So they might suddenly see, well, we've got a lot more customers, but no one's getting to the website. And that's because on their Google business profile, the book online button goes over to their booking engine and not to them, which is fine. A lot of people do that because they don't have their own booking software, but there might not always be a correlation between an increase in business and an increase in traffic.
That's a very good point.
Thank you.
Amazing. Rob. Come on.
I also just wanted to say there is an About Us page, and obviously there is some of the stylists, all the stylists there. It may be good to also just have the book an appointment before you have to click on the drop down for each one, and then you can really promote also the stylists and promote them also on Instagram, so you can really get people booking directly with their stylist.
Amazing. Any more points in the chat before we jump on to the next question?
SEO and UX, they go hand in hand. Yep, good to include those. And I think we have the hair business is a bit of a social business as well. You might also get referrals, like word of mouth. So Idris is saying, thinking about where do I currently get my sales from? Maybe have a look at that too in your analytics.
Great. Okay, next question. It's quite a long one. Apologies. Hi, I have a website that seems to be the victim of an ongoing negative SEO attack. Since November, there has been 11,000 backlinks with the anchor text, black SEO links, black backlinks, software for mass backlinking, Telegram at SEO link. And that's happened every day. There's more and more from thousands of different domains. I plan to disavow the domains and regularly do. However, I have concerns that this may be coming from within the company. The company has been without an SEO for a while, and there isn't much of an understanding of SEO overall. There are also a few marketing and business veterans who would have first learnt about SEO when buying links was less frowned upon. I've been asked about this, which raised my suspicion. I'm concerned that somebody could be buying links, meaning how do I navigate this? I have a lot of autonomy in this role. Do I just go ahead and do the disavows, or should I try and subtly and sensitively make it known what I'm doing? So if somebody is spending budget on buying these links, they know to stop. Okay, does anybody want to have a go at tackling this one?
Yeah, I'm happy to
go for it, Lee.
Have a go. There's quite a bit to unpack in that one.
Yeah.
I think first of all, you need to make sure people aren't creating or adding to the problem, right? So there needs to be an open and honest chat with the relevant people. It may be best to do that in one-to-one settings if people might slightly be worried if that they've caused the problem or being part of the problem. Obviously, if you do discover that someone's causing the issue, it might help in a strange way because it means you'll hopefully be able to use the same tools, go back to the point of source really of the problem, and actually remove a lot of the unwanted backlinks, because it's one thing disavowing them. Ultimately, it'd be better to get rid of it and to stop the problem from carrying on going. Obviously, there's things like Google Search Console where you can check in case there is a manual penalty, for example, in place as well, because there might be different, or there will be different actions if there's a manual penalty versus you just trying to protect the brand and remove backlinks. If you don't have Google Search Console set up, obviously you should do. It's free and it provides lots of useful information for this type of thing. Other areas, obviously, as well. You'll also want to get a pretty complete picture of your backlink. Don't just look at one tool, for example, for this project. Lots of different tools like SEMrush, Ahrefs can help you get a more comprehensive picture. It also means that you can remove a lot of this too. Once you remove a lot of the backlinks, hopefully, you'll also want to look at future-proofing the site as well. And part of that will also be about why these links have been built, if you've built them internally, and actually a better way of creating links off the back of amazing content, for example, or being immersed in your audience, in different platforms and other areas where they exist. But I would definitely have the open, honest chat. Remove the issue from source if you can. Don't be too judgmental. I'm sure there's lots of people have done very similar things over the years. Or, of course, lots of people have done very similar things over the years. And now it's about kind of fixing it at source, stopping the issue occurring, and actually building a bit more of a culture around creating more sort of linkable assets, but based on value, right? So using this as an opportunity to talk about SEO in a very different light and what it is now as well.
Amazing. Isaline, do you have any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, same as Lee. I would really check internally if anyone is doing harm. If these links are bought, yeah, that's something to worry about. If they're not, I wouldn't. Because the thing is, sometimes you see things in your search console and it's annoying and you want everything to be perfect and clean. But actually, it doesn't matter because these things happen. Like people backlink your website, I don't know, as a sort of promotional way, I think. Sometimes I have that impression. And so I think if these links are not bought, I would focus my energy on something else. And it happens.
Great, Joe.
Yeah, I've done a lot of backlinking removing, but that was like years ago, and we did have to do this disavow. If these are sites that obviously they're very spammy, Google will see that it's probably not relevant for your website. But I've read recently that the disavow file doesn't really do that much. We can always confirm with look at Google Search Console, look at Google Webmaster Central and see the latest updates. But the most important thing really is to see, I found that I'm surprised it's like 11,000 since November. You've got this in 2 months, you've built it. So somebody might be doing this. Yeah, like Lee said, speak to that person, or if that has been happening, ask in maybe more of a anonymous way in Slack and see if someone has been doing some backlinks. They may be thinking that they were helping. And also then look to see what can you be doing to promote your product or service in a more natural way. Look to see if you can work with some influencers or bloggers on this. We also have some questions, messages in the chat. Actually, Simon said, I'd leave the disavow to Google to sort out. Natalia is saying, I recently had a chat with someone who had seen a positive impact from negative SEO. So make sure there is a negative impact before you do anything. John's saying you could also do a round of internal SEO training. Yes, education for the marketing, sales, web team, the web dev, web design, everyone, and tell them about this so it's very transparent. Preeti was also asking if they've seen an impact from it or not. Idris is also talking about opening up that conversation about links. You need obviously good links, but this is really strange how they've just got 11,000 of these black, what was they put it in as in black SEO links or SEO link. It looks very shady. Simon said, might be someone who got fired for buying the backlinks. Maybe they did that. Yes, interesting. But the main thing is really to find the source of the problem and then deal with that in the best way you can.
So recently, something that I've noticed is I've been getting emails from people who have noticed a link that doesn't look that great and have basically been trying to sell their SEO services that they can help with a disavow or something like that. So that's just something that I've noticed, and it's a really aggressive way of selling SEO. But there's just something that I wanted to flag that I noticed recently that I would not get involved in that at all. So it could be something like that. I work on quite a few websites, but three of them that are really big. And when I'm saying big, they get millions of visitors a month. I've actually noticed quite similar things happen there. And what the thing that I recognize is actually the word Telegram, SEO, backlinks. And I don't know the website that the person's working on, but when I've seen this before, it's basically just been a long list of different domains, and it's got that kind of anchor text for all of them. And my advice so far to my clients has been, we'll monitor it, but we won't do anything with it, and we'll just focus on the other stuff. And so far, it hasn't impacted them at all. But yeah, I basically wanted to flag that's happening with a couple of websites I work on, and I'm pretty confident it's not somebody internally buying those. I think it's just the nature of the web and these lists getting scraped. And obviously somebody's doing it somewhere for some reason, but it's probably not about you. It might be about somebody else on the list that, if it is the same, it's just the Telegram SEO thing just is very similar. So it could be that. Joe, do we have anything in the chat?
Just other things, just some jokes. If you don't want stuff buying negative links, pay them less. Problem solved. From Rob. But yeah, good points there. We're halfway through, so I wanted to say thank you to everyone for joining us today on our 58th episode, and everyone that's joining us live and also from the replay. If you are watching from the replay, click a like on our YouTube video, click a like on the video itself, and then subscribe to our YouTube channel. We will be running this show for indefinite for future, and there's also Danny's running the SEO office hours in Spanish on Thursdays. I'll share the link in the chat too. We're just doing it in English. Danny is running it with Carlos on Thursdays at 11 CET. I'll share it in the chat now. Back to you, Mike.
Great. Okay, next question. How do you talk to an in-house team about updating or redesigning their website without making it feel like you're tearing their website apart? I like this question. Who would like to kick off this? Isaline, you're laughing. Are you happy to kick off on this one?
Yeah, that's a fun question. I really like it. First, I think avoid words like fixing issues. And I would personally focus on opportunities. I found out that if you speak to people in terms of opportunities we can get together, it works better than saying things, I want to fix something on the website so the website works better. So I would really focus on the opportunities and show what could be, like talk about what could be, but not what we're going to fix. So create sort of vision board for the team to have something fun and interesting and to make everybody enthusiastic about making some changes on the website. Because if you come with a roadmap from your audits about issues to fix and acceptance criteria, like you're sure to have everybody not being happy with you. And also, I think another thing I learned from someone, an SEO called Ellie Ferrari, is it's really important to know who are your allies. So if you want to start doing something, I would have maybe 101 coffee chats with a couple of people you know might be on your side, which means that the moment you start having this conversation with a bigger group, you have some allies in the room and some people who can back up your ideas. So I think there's a bit of a preparation here to do. Like for anything where humans are involved, it's good to tackle it step by step and do it slowly. Yeah, I think beware of the vocabulary you're using, even though I'm pretty sure you started with an audit. And next thing, find out who are your allies, people who can back up what you're saying, even if you're not there, and have a sort of team of supporters. And it's always easier to find your allies with people who are already half convinced or a little bit convinced than trying to convince someone who is 0% convinced. So really choose the people carefully, choose who can help you and who is in a position also to discuss this within the company, of course.
Amazing. Lee, have you got any thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. The first place is really trying to bring people in as part of the decision-making process. So it doesn't feel from the outset like it's an us and them or pointing blame and all that sort of stuff. I think you'll probably be surprised as well how everyone else probably feels about the site. If it's not great, if it's not fit for purpose, if it hasn't been updated in quite a while, there's probably lots of really like positive ideas that other people can bring to the table to make it better. Try to be objective. Sometimes websites can be very subjective by nature, depending on what you're looking to achieve with the redesign or with any updating areas. So take a step back, try to be objective and use data to tell the story, because then it's not you saying something, it's the data's telling us this, and it makes it less direct and accusational and just a bit more practical. And it also leads to more of a conversation about how you look at your website and how you maintain it and update it. And perhaps there's an opportunity to look at more of an iterative kind of ongoing approach to websites and tweaking them and fixing them and basically incorporating that data iteratively just to make things better through minor refinements rather than it being a big discussion piece every now and then. Because if you think about, I always think about sites like Amazon or whatever, they make thousands of changes a year. It always looks the same. But if you look over, if you go to Wayback When Machine or something, you can see big changes, but you never notice them when you're on the site. And I think that mentality saves building up to these big moments of everything's broken, everything's not working, we need to overhaul things, to actually the data's telling us this, telling us this today. You know, over the last month, we've seen this slight change. We can implement this, we can A/B test this, and then we can see if it works or not, and then use that to drive the next change. So I think these conversations should be more sort of business as usual and iterative, rather than it being a huge discussion piece of it does work or it doesn't work, because I think realistically, lots of it probably does work, some of it doesn't work, and actually the data will give you all of that insight to make it work slightly harder.
Some great answers there for this question. I'd like to add something a little bit different, because this is a situation that happens in lots of different teams, and it's about empathy, putting yourself in someone else's shoes. I would suggest, if you haven't already, to take this test called the Clifton Strengths. It helps you to find out what your strengths are, or that will become your talents, and also what other people are in the team. Because there might be some people that are not very empathetic. So if you go in and even if you follow some of the advice that Isaline and Lee have said, if you're aware that you're not so empathetic, you might maybe say something that can be maybe negative to someone else and may put you on the back foot. So it would be good to just remember empathy in these situations, but this is something that is important for all different work and personal situations. So I recommend this Gallup Strengths Finder, so you can see how you are, how you can work with others, and what the others are like in their team.
Great. I've actually been in meetings where people have been tearing apart websites and being quite aggressive. And I find that all you end up doing is building up that person's defense. That person becomes really defensive, and then nothing gets changed. And so if I ever have to suggest making changes, I try and explain why I think they're important. And I also make it very clear that because I feel so sorry for people in-house where they've probably been talking about the same issues to fix, or that they don't like this or they don't like that. But sometimes it takes somebody from the outside who isn't caught up in day-to-day activities to say about these things. And sometimes that's only when the management team or senior leadership team actually hear it, when somebody outside says it. And also, if I'm ever making recommendations, I always make it quite clear that I'm not a designer, I'm not a branding expert. So I'm looking at it with my SEO hat on or my UX hat. I'll try and bring some data to the table or some examples or something like that in terms of why I don't think that's right, as opposed to just being on the attack. I think that's a terrible idea. And so actually, if anybody ever submits their website to office hours, we won't tear you apart, I promise. That's not, I don't think that's the right way. So I would just be nice, be kind, be empathetic, like Joe was saying, and be people's champion as well, particularly if they're your client. You don't throw them under the bus in front of their bosses or anything like that. Just try, I'm trying to be a bit empathetic. Joe, is there anything in the chat before we jump on to the next question?
Yeah, there are some. And I do the expression, don't throw them under the bus. It's a very British expression, I think.
Oh, okay.
So Simon said, for future projects, try and get in early so you can help steer and find opportunities for improvements. If you don't get invited, then you can tear it down. Umama's talking about ask for their input and make them part of the decision-making process. Very good point, because that can foster ownership and reduce resistance. Waleed was also saying that he suggests to tell them, like, let's work together That's always a nice way of starting. Let's work together to identify areas for improvement, and then you can give them a plan to follow up and move forward. And you could potentially maybe suggest to help them with that. So lots of comments in the chat here. Yeah, great questions. We're only on to question 4. We've got 19 minutes left.
Okay, cool. Okay, next question. Sorry. I often receive SEO reports that attribute ranking drops to single events, e.g., the November update caused rankings to fall, but without deeper analysis. When multiple changes, such as a CMS migration, disavow file updates, content revisions, and design updates occur in a short period, how can I move beyond these surface level correlations to feel confident in both the analysis and the conclusion? What processes, tools, or frameworks help isolate the real cause? And what key areas should we prioritize when diagnosing complex SEO issues? Lee, you're nodding. Are you happy to kick off on this one?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's probably one of the toughest tasks in SEO to correctly assign positive or negative impact to specific actions, events, internally or externally. So when they're super complex, when there's multiple factors at play, it's not an easy task. It's not something that's very easy to say this is a specific process, because the process will change. And I think many people do fall into the trap of seeing some level of correlation and very quickly saying that's direct causation. There was an algorithm update 2 weeks ago, and 2 weeks later, we've seen a drop on this specific thing. It must be tied to that. And actually, what you need to do is minimize the volume of the concurrent changes you make to the same part of a website if you can. So keep track of the dates that you make changes directly, so you can control the controllables, right? So internally, we've made this change. This was on this date. We can check and see the impact of that within a short time frame and see with a degree of confidence whether or not that had a direct correlation or causation to impact performance. But you also need to look at the external narrative too. And there's quite a lot of tools that can help with that as well. So obviously things like user interest on topics can change. So there's tools like Google Trends that can help with that. There's lots of tools that can track with the volatility of search performance. So whether that's keyword level, whether that's industry specific, whether that's regions. There's lots of competitor and keyword tracking tools, so you can very quickly see any changes at keyword and topic level to see whether it's specifically to do with you, whether it's to do with that topic, because, for example, there might be changes in the search results. There might be different in-search features like AI overviews, for example, that all of a sudden might appear, and then you're getting less traffic because there's something different that's changed that's actually more relevant potentially to that topic or intent area. What I would say, though, is when it comes to diagnosing these kind of complex issues, a lot of it is less about the ability to very quickly fix or identify that issue, but it's more about tracking the impact of actions that you've completed, having a bit more of a robust ongoing measurement plan so that you can identify things sooner, but also making sure that you're able to audit things extensively. And if these things are really tough, they're really tough for experts to do it on a regular basis for lots of clients and lots of industries. If you're looking to tackle it yourself in-house, I would often seek some degree of feedback externally as objective as possible, because it is really difficult. So the more input, the more expertise, and the more support you have, the better, because often it is multiple factors. It's very rarely one specific thing. And the deeper you go into it, the better. Don't do knee-jerk reactions to these things. And sometimes things bounce back naturally too. So sometimes, obviously, Google algorithm updates and other sorts of changes often scale back as quickly as they scale up. Take the necessary time to digest it rather than reacting too soon to it as well.
Great. Isaline, do you have anything to add?
Yes, I really liked Liz mentioning doing some sort of journaling of the changes that happen of the website. I think it's really important to keep track of the dates, like we updated this part, we changed that. So you know what's happened. And also if you can ask other departments to do it, because you might not have the whole picture of all the changes on the website. But one thing I feel interesting in that question is to feel confident in both the analysis and the conclusion. And the thing is, trust, we have work hypothesis. A work hypothesis to make a change isn't a hypothesis. So it means we don't know. We're just trying to do something and we hope that it's going to work. So I think you probably know, that person probably know what kind of analysis and tools there is to use, and maybe it's time to work on the confidence part. And the thing is, I don't know in which environment you are and how safe you're feeling in your company, but the thing is, SEO is a game. I mean, we all playing and trying to be visible, and I think it's time to enjoy the fact that this is a game, and with all game there is a part of risk. And truth is, I think anybody who's not an SEO will understand that there is an amount of educated guesses. But the thing is, when it works well, people will say, oh, great. And when it doesn't, they will say, oh, bad. And at some point, it's going to be your fault anyways. Sometimes we do something on a website, there are more customers, but we're not 100% sure it's what we did, but we're like hoping. But so yeah, I think it's play with it. It's just impossible to be 100% confident because it would be too expensive to do all of the testing. So find a comfortable enough balance between trying something and not being confident. Try and play and see. I know it's easy to say, but I think it gets better when we try things repeatedly, and after a while we feel also better when it doesn't work, because I think a part of it is also compartmentalizing. There is a part you can do and there is a part you can't. Yeah, good luck.
Joe, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, we have a lot of comments in the chat. John saying, take credit for all the search improvements, but blame those search engines for all the drops. Jordan's talking about data, multiple sources, so from SEMrush to Systrix and Google Trends to Google Search Console. Also consider reviewing other channels in GA4 to see if there has been any sort of knock-on effect from this. You need to make sure that you have your finger on the pulse in your market, Simon says. Topic interests, they do change, depends on seasonality. I like this one, Simon. Yes, he says, who searches for fidget spinners these days? Good point. Also check, Umama's talking about checking for broken links, any redirect chains, so your technical SEO, maybe any pages that were maybe accidentally blocked by robots.txt. Yeah, it's not just because, of course, of basically a Google update or a search engine update, but this is why it's also really important to make sure that you're communicating and you have a tracker that reports on what changes were made, at what time, so that your tech SEO plan can be implemented, and it's not, oh, we did this change and we saw this massive improvement. That's great, but you need to make sure that everybody in the company is aware of what's going on the website, and also any PR, any other PR work that you've done. So make sure you're speaking with the rest of the team there. Yeah, so loads of comments in the chat. Thanks, everyone.
Great. I think it's only ever possible if you have a handle on every single thing that's happening on your website all the time. And that's very unlikely if it's quite a large or complicated site. And that also includes everything that's happening externally as well, to be able to say it was down to this single thing. When I do SEO reports, what I'm often doing, the appendices is usually massive. It's usually full of all these different graphs to show what's been going on. But the bit that I think is really interesting is actually the report bit, which are like the things that are a bit different to normal. And so one of the ideas, one of the problems may be that there was an update and you saw a drop, but also there might be other things that you want to include. And why I think it's very rare that I would go, it's definitely because of this, because there are usually so many other factors at play, like people have suggested with technical, other people doing stuff on the site, or a competitor does something, a website, and therefore they've benefited from it. But what I would say is, once you've got a report of the things that are different that you can actually do something with, I usually list them as problems. And then, like Isaline said, I would come up with a hypothesis about what I think might happen if we do X. There's software like SEOtesting.com. I personally really like SEO Stack. I talk about that quite a lot here, where you can really drill down to specific pages and templates and all of that stuff to see if the changes you're making has an impact, and you can annotate and all of that. But yeah, I think unless it's a really small site, it's really hard to say this has definitely happened because of this. One thing is also just having a look at what other people are saying, if there has been an update. So Steve, I can see you're on the call and you do these really cool blog posts about what's happening in certain industries, or if there's been a core update based on Systrix data. And so looking at things like that to see if what's happened to you is the same and try and build a bit of a case. But I don't think you can ever 100% say it's because of this. You might put some sort of confidence level together based on the data that you pulled around it. But chances are it's basically, when it comes to reporting, it's very easy to attach something to something just because you haven't really digged into the data. So I just make sure you really, really dig into it and look for the things that are different. Joe, do we have anything else in the chat?
No, that's all actually. Thank you. No, loads of comments in the chat. Oh, of
Great.
course, the whole it depends maybe from
Yeah, sorry, I was trying really hard not to say it depends, but so we're at that really weird time where we've got 6 minutes left. I'm going to try and fit a question in before we go to our regular question. Okay, let's go with this one. Almost a year ago, we launched Google Ads for branded terms, but since then, we've seen a steady drop in non-branded organic traffic. My theory is that branded searches drive key engagement signals like conversions, time on site, repeat visits, and so on. So if those interactions shift to paid, could that indirectly weaken organic rankings for non-branded terms? Has anybody tested or noticed this before? I'm thinking of suggesting a temporary pause on our branded ads to measure the impact. Does that sound like a sensible experiment? Joe, you're nodding. What do you think? Is that a sensible experiment?
I think it's very interesting what they've found. Yeah, I think that I've run some paid search campaigns or run it with PPC expert or consultant. And yeah, we did find some interesting results, more positive SEO results. We saw more views actually as well. Oh, sorry, they said that we've seen a steady drop in non-branded search traffic. We actually found that we saw an increase actually. But really, if someone has a theory, give yourself the time to do a test. You could actually just, because otherwise you're just theorizing. So yes, do this test about running paid ads, but be specific with the landing page where you're driving traffic, and then see the effects organically as well. I was just thinking, I'm thinking of suggesting a temporary pause. Yeah, I think that would be a good idea for them to do that. Pause the ad campaigns, but make sure also before you do this test that you're aware that you do like a brief and you tell everyone in the company what you're doing, how long the test is, because just to manage expectations. Review the test, review the results, and share that with other people, the findings. That's what I would recommend.
Great. Lee, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I think for me, it'd be interesting to understand a bit more about the logic around the brand focus versus non-brand on paid. Obviously, you've got the greatest chance of dominating the results when you're present in both. So I would probably discuss scaling back rather than stopping. I don't know the scale of the amount of media spend and things like that, but often we trial scaling back the paid on brand when you're present and owning that organic space, because you often get to a stage where at some point you will start to lose some of the clicks. So even though they are different sections and you likely target quite different people with different intent via paid and organic, at some point you do start to lose retail space if you start scaling back too far. So I wouldn't necessarily be a switch on or switch off experiment. I would take it slightly more cautiously and scale back if it's a large scale thing. I'd also want to look at where your non-brand SEO performance is, compare that to any competitor changes on those topics, and then look at the kind of the value you're bringing in the non-brand space too. And yeah, I would just make sure you're taking the right time to audit these properly, and then looking at the kind of non-brand opportunity through SEO generally, and maybe consider the relationship between paid and SEO a little bit more as well, because effectively I'd be using paid to experiment in all sorts of areas where you can get quick information back, create really amazing stuff on SEO, push that out organically, and look at that relationship as being a bit more symbiotic rather than it being paid or organic, which is what it feels like within that kind of question, if that makes sense.
Isaline, do you have anything to add?
Testing is always a good idea. I would not pause everything at once, because if the traffic, if the revenue really depends on Google Ads and you pause everything, that might really impact negatively the business. So I would find a way, maybe you can test on a vertical something, not on the whole website. So maybe not do a test for the whole thing, but choose, like Lee said, choose a part or scale down or see how SEO and SEA is working together, and speak with your teammates like internally, make sure everybody knows, because if it impacts the business and not everybody was on board, it might fall back on you and you testing. So really like cover every ground to make sure everybody's on board and the testing is interesting but not too impactful negatively.
Yeah, I like the fact that they're talking about testing. This test makes my stomach go a bit funny, just because one question I would basically ask is, can you afford to run this test? So if, for instance, you don't get the paid traffic you currently get, I'm assuming if it's branded terms, chances are they're hopefully still going to land on your site, but you might want to do some analysis before to make sure you do rank for those terms, that you have pages that rank and that they're similar to the pages that might be high converting from AdWords. So that would be the first thing. And then if you do decide to do it, and just make sure you come up with quite a solid testing plan beforehand. So decide before how long you're going to do it, before how you're going to record it, what happens if something else happens, like a core update or something like that. How do you make sure you don't attribute the success or the failure down to something else? And so you're not just jumping to conclusions. And then, yeah, just work out what success looks like with it. But the big question here is, it sounds like an interesting test for you as a business, but can you afford it? And the other thing was just time of the year. If you are going to do this, you might want to pick a quieter time of the year where it's not going to impact the business as much, rather than just doing it because you've come up with this idea. Okay, sorry, I've been terrible at hosting this, but at 10:30, we usually finish there. Really quickly, our final question. What are you most excited about in terms of SEO? Lee, what are you most excited about in terms of SEO?
So SEO is more expansive than ever, right? So there's lots of people saying AI overviews and AI generative search experience and generative engines and all this sort of stuff are taken away from SEO. I just see it as SEO is everywhere now, and it's more present and more impactful. And whatever platform, whatever engine, if there's a search and discovery element, you need SEO. So SEO is bigger and better than ever, or has the opportunity to be bigger and better than ever.
Oh, I like that. Can you follow me around, Lee? Because I feel like every time I go to an SEO event at the moment, it's so negative around everything.
There has to be a counter to SEO is dead, which crops up every few months. I mean,
It has done for the last 20 years, right? It was dying 20 years ago. Isaline, what are you most excited about in terms of SEO?
I'm really excited about new tools. I love trying out new tools and translation tools, content creation tools, and see what they can do and how I can train them and how I can't train them also, and showing how bad it works sometimes. So I think we're just at the beginning and I'm really excited to see where it goes. And I don't think we're going to be ever replaced, but I'm like, some parts will be replaced, and that's the fun stuff about it.
Right, I wish I'd switched that around and finished on the high. No, thank you so much. Okay, Joe, what are you most excited about in terms of SEO?
I'm always excited about events, so tune in to SEO Nerds Switzerland next week at 11 on the 11th at 5:45 CET to learn about JavaScript for SEOs. Isaline, you shared the link in the chat earlier today, but feel free to put another link in as well so people can see at the top of their feed, because this chat just scrolls. And also excited about WTS Fest London. That takes place in just under 2 weeks in obviously London, and very excited to go there. I'll be volunteering. I'm honored and grateful to be there, and I'll be meeting lots of Women Tech SEO attendees and community members. So I'm very excited about community as well in 2025.
Amazing. Sorry for running over. Thank you, everybody, for watching live. Thank you to those that watched after on YouTube. Joe, thank you for co-hosting. Isaline and Lee, thank you so much for being our panel. You're amazing. And thank you to those that submitted the questions. We'll see you next Friday. Have a lovely weekend.
Yeah, see you on Valentine's Day. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Yes, Valentine's. There you go. Bye.
Bye, everyone.